Can Michigan State basketball's offseason actually get a little bit dicey? And then later on, I do have a bone to pick with Michigan State and how some things about the whole football fan experience are going. Let's go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from. Need one right now? Grab a 5-Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. Stock up today and stay energized. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On Spartans, your team in green and white 5 days a week. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment below. Just your thoughts about the Michigan State football fan experience. That's what we're going to get into in segment 3. We are joined by a guest that hasn't been on the show in way too long. My fault for that. MattyMehhh. He joins us, but first, we're going to hit basketball. And we're going to hit this offseason because there is a world where things get a little dicey for Michigan State, and we're just going to get right there. And we're actually going to start with an email written by Matt C., one of my favorite emailers out there, at lockedonspartans@gmail.com. Wrote in, I know Justin is plugged in. Justin Thin is who he's talking about, is plugged in, but the offseason you described is a disaster if the goal is to win a national title. The only reason the offense was functional this year was Jace Richardson. I'll stop from the email right now. What he's talking about is, you're probably going to lose Jace Richardson to the NBA draft. Michigan State, they could use some supplemental pickups at the guard, the wing, maybe not really a big man, but still, kind of with what they did with Frankie Fiddler and Zapal last year. Don't go out and get $1 million transfer. You're going to get an older, experienced guy elsewhere to supplement what you've lost out on. All right, back to the email. Losing a lottery player and replacing him with 2 mid-transfers for the sake of culture most likely gets us back to being a 7-10 seed. I agree that this is the most likely scenario, but my question to you is, if we don't spend and bring in top talent, how do we win a national championship? If we aren't competing for natties, what's the point of Michigan State basketball? Now, Matt C. is hardly the only one that has mentioned that Michigan State has got to start spending like the big dogs if they want to start winning like the big dogs. And a lot of the eyeballs are on this Final Four right now, where a lot of these teams, 3 of the 4 of them, have really heavily relied on top transfers, okay? Like Florida with Walter Clayton and Elijah Martin. Houston with LJ Cryer. Auburn, pick your random 28-year-old that's on their team, okay? And, even outside the Final Four, you look at other teams that had really good seasons thanks to really strong transfer portals, like St. John's for another example. Yeah, you got to start to think it's not just getting supplemental pieces and then having a culture at your program and making sure these transfers don't start over the guys that you've started to develop. And that's where you start to get yourself into kind of a brain spin right there of what truly works in college basketball. Because just like I said, I know that Florida, Auburn, and Houston, and Duke also had some fine transfers, but that's more so of just recruiting at a dynamic level. You see them in the Final Four after incredible seasons, and you start to think that, okay, well, that's the no doubt way to win in college basketball these days. I want to play devil's advocate here, because you know who else really made some splashes in the transfer portal? Indiana. How'd their season go? Kansas, hey, number 1 overall team in the country going into the season, and my goodness gracious, looked like a demolition derby in Lawrence the entire season. How about Illinois, who is always famously turning out their roster into a transfer portal mecca year in and year out? I don't think they necessarily had the season they wanted. How about Kansas State? They made a massive splash in the offseason, getting Coleman Hawkins, one of the most highly paid transfers. I don't remember seeing Kansas State in the NCAA tournament. How about Ohio State if you want another team within the conference? How about Washington with great Osabor? There are some good examples of teams that have done well in the transfer portal, and that's why they're going to play in the Final Four. That's not the end-all be-all, though. There is a mixture of transfers and also culture at your program. Again, sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. But the argument for having a culture, like we've used many, many times here this season while talking about our Michigan State Spartans, we beat the word culture into smithereens because culture still is appealing for some players, that guys that are, whether it's a recruit or guys that you're trying to get out of the transfer portal. And culture isn't just about keeping your guys, developing your guys. Culture is a pretty wide net of a word. Like culture is breeding the mindset that you have to hate losing more than you like winning, something that Tom Izzo hammered into these guys early on this season. He said it behind closed doors. He said it in front of microphones, that you really have to instill a winning culture. Now, guys, that also means the word culture is how a game can be played within those 94 feet of baseline. Defend, rebound, run. They get on transition. They scored a bunch of points this year. I think the second or third most amount of points per game under Tom Izzo. That is appealing for Michigan State transfer targets too. So when we say culture, it's not just, hey, Jackson Kohler is going to be here all 4 years and that's great. Make sure you don't get a guy over him. It goes a little deeper than that. And it's also where, you don't have a program that's just 100% transactional, kind of like what Indiana looks like, kind of like how Kansas looked this year. And you also have like a little bit of tradition to go along with your transactions here. So look, as we get into the offseason, it's going to be a big one for Michigan State. I know that when we talk with Justin Thin, we ended the show saying, oh, it's another big offseason because we joked about it. Every offseason is a big offseason. But no, now it's no longer a joking manner. It's a big offseason. And, of course, this goes along with the Tre Holloman decision earlier this week. And, guys, I'm going to have a big gripe about Michigan State football here later on in this show. I just wanted to get some gripes off my chest. And I got to get one off my chest right now. And I don't try to do this. I think I do a decent job, if I could pat myself on the back, of like not letting comments or tweets or emails get to my head or my thoughts, but I got to get a gripe off here as it pertains to the Tre Holloman dialogue, the discourse, the episode after, because we got some comments, way more than I thought, of, hey, idiot. No one actually used the word idiot. It maybe have been a meaner word or maybe nicer words, who's to say, but something along the lines of, well, he's got to take care of himself. Like, oh, he doesn't get, this much chances to make this much money elsewhere. Like, well, Michigan State isn't going to pay him this much. He has to go elsewhere. I think I made that very clear by repeating that point 3 or 4 times after Tre made his decision. I am fully aware that he can make more elsewhere. And Michigan State, whether they want to match or not, most likely he's not going to come back to Michigan State because it's not just the money, but also I've heard that he wants more ball handling duties as well. He didn't really want to split time with Jeremy Fears. So fine. Okay. I get it, guys. We said it. This is his last great chance to make really big money before he goes on to whatever professional career he has, whether it's Europe, whether it's a second-tier European league, whether it's Asia, wherever it is. What he's going to make at his next stop might be his last biggest paycheck, okay? I cannot make that any more clear. But here is where maybe the disconnect happens, is because I wish well for Tre. He's delivered great memories here for Michigan State. A massive reason Michigan State won a Big Ten banner this year, of course. But when we voice frustration, when we get a little irritated, not just at Tre, but the whole system, I don't know how I can make it more abundantly clear. If you're watching on YouTube, you see everything around me. I'm wearing a Michigan State shirt every single day. I have lived and breathed Michigan State athletics my entire life. I'm a Michigan State fan first before I am a Tre Holloman fan. So when he makes the decision to go somewhere else, sure, good luck to him. Wish him well. I think it's well within our rights as fans to be a little frustrated, not just because of, we lost a captain, we lost a dog. No, Michigan State now is in a little bit of a tough spot here this offseason, guys. And maybe that got lost in the shuffle too, because we were all so shocked at the announcement to begin with that we didn't even think about what this means for the roster. But yeah, Tre leaving is more than just, we're losing the guy that pushed those 2 Michigan players. How could he? No. Last year, Michigan State had 3 guys that could handle the ball. Jace Richardson, Tre Holman, Jeremy Fears. Now, assuming Jace goes to the NBA draft, now you have 1 ball handler. Okay, now Michigan State was most likely going to get a guard in some capacity in the transfer portal, whether Tre stayed, whether Jace stayed, or whether they both left. Now you need, with a capital N and a capital EED, need a guard. You need another ball handler. Can you get one? Most likely Michigan State will get one, but it's not automatic that you just go out and pluck your first, second, or third option. It's going to be tough for Michigan State to compete with other schools to get a guy that fits their system and that also wants to share ball handling duties with Jeremy Fears. Last year, you had 4 strong wing defenders. This was one of the backbones of Michigan State. was their perimeter defense. Now, with Aikens gone, with Trey gone, with Chase most likely gone, now you just have one. So, guy, just want to clear it up. As Trey leaves, it's not just being upset of, oh, how could he? Or how early did he have something set in place for his next school? No, this puts Michigan State, the school I root for, the school you root for, in a very tough spot. So, again, Michigan State, they're going to find some transfers, but it gets a little uncomfortable because now, instead of just getting 2 transfers, MSU probably needs to get 3, if not 4 transfers to put a competitive Big Ten roster on the court next year. That's uncharted territory for Tom Izzo. We'll see how it goes. Could go fine, could go great, could also not. It's going to be a dicey offseason here for Michigan State potentially because of these departures. So, all right, hope everyone's in a good mood here. We're going to talk a little bit more about basketball. We're going to talk about football too here, but first need to talk everyone's ears off about Fabric. Guys, we're talking life insurance with Fabric here because life moves fast, especially when you have a family. One day you're watching your kids take their first steps, and before you know it, they're off to college. And that's why securing their future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family's need. With Fabric, you can apply for term life insurance online right from your couch. You can be covered in under 10 minutes, and in many cases, no health exam is even required. Now, as a parent, I want to make sure my family is financially protected no matter what happens, and Fabric gives us that peace of mind. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their families. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. That's meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. Guys, also, Prize Picks. It is your top way to get in on the daily fantasy sports action, especially with baseball season being in full swing. There is no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash, whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, first inning runs. Prize Picks keeps every single game exciting. Like this week, sometimes you just got to go with the hits, right? Like I'm picking Aaron Judge for more than 1 home run and Shohei Ohtani more than 1 stolen base. It is that easy. You can make a lineup in just 60 seconds or less, and when you win, well, you get paid out quick, safe, and secure. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's all one word, LOCKEDONCollege, to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. Back by popular demand. It has been way too long since we've spoken with near dear friend of the program. We're talking MattyMehhh. Because sometimes in life, you just need a listening ear from a near dear friend. And because I got some gripes. I just said one in segment 1. I've got some more that I got to get off my chest because what better way to end a beautiful week and head into the weekend by just getting angry at some things, Matty. But first, you're not going to help here because I don't think you have the answer. People I've reached out to don't have the answer for this. But this goes back to a conversation I was having with my dad actually earlier this week. And I don't know why this is bothering me so much. And I don't know why I'm dragging this out to be like a 3-day long story. But if there is just one question I could get one answer to in the world, it's not, who's going to win the Kentucky Derby so I can be rich. It's not answers to any conspiracy theories out there like the JFK assassination. It's not anything meaningful. It's, did Tom Izzo know that Trey was leaving town on that senior night? Is that a reason why he let him kiss the logo? I don't know why that's bothering me so much. I don't even know what I want you to say because of that. But, that has just been bothering me all week, because truly, if it is like this mutual parting of ways, it was understood that Trey just wants more ball handling duties. It was never about NIL, which I have a hard time believing that. Maybe this was somewhat mutual in the end. I think that's the closure I want to know is, was this truly a mutual decision or was the staff blindsided? Am I just ridiculous for being so hung up on this last 72 hours?
Great question, Matt, and hello.
Hi.
Very good to be back. Yes, I can always. I never turn down an invite to come chew the fat with Matt. So either way, yes, griping, as I always say, makes the world go round, and I don't think you can really get through life successfully without complaining or bemoaning.
Good.
So, to answer your question or your gripe or complaint, I totally get it. I think that's worth I mean, it's worth being a little bit hung up on and giving a side eye, having those questions about what did the staff know and when. That stuff we're probably never going to know, but I think it is a good question because there's never been a moment where Tom Izzo has been one to break tradition, but all of a sudden we're breaking it for Tre Holloman to go down, and you think it's because of pushing Michigan fans or Michigan players, but
sure.
Then it all of a sudden gets taken in a new light. And you even hear things from like Graham Couch and folks where he's saying to beat reporters like, hey, I really enjoyed our conversations. Katsumoto in Last Samurai style. But, they didn't even think of it until later he leaves. And then,
right.
Yeah. So I think, I'll offer a bit in a therapy sense, Matt to Matt, is that in a way you, I know what you want this question answered because in a way you want relief for maybe Trey's performance during the final game that MSU played, which, and I hate
to I've never thought of it, but it is in the back of my head, I suppose.
That's what I would, if I was burning to know, would that affect his performance? And then in the future sense, does that mean he is coming back or not? And I think those are the two parts where one is a kind of reverse, like you're looking behind and being like, did that really affect him? Because he knew he was going in, maybe his heart wasn't in it. I doubt that being by what how he was in the locker room, but maybe that's kind of why he was so emotional, is that maybe he thought that was his last time in the green and white. And to be honest, everyone's last time in the green and white when that time comes in college and whatnot is pretty emotional. So I get it. Whether it affected his performance or not, who's to say? That's kind of going to be between him and himself.
I think that was more of just Auburn's really good. They really bothered him around the rim. I don't think that he was so heartbroken that, should he go to Texas Tech, that his Red Raiders lost in dramatic fashion the night before. I don't actually think that, I just think it is what it is. Maybe he was pressing a little bit, you could say, knowing it was maybe his last game, but overall, no, I don't truly. But
I don't think it affected anything where, you're thinking about wherever you're going next or entering.
Of course not. Right.
I think it's more so that, you still have that. It's a game of emotion in ways that affects your shot by, micrometers that all of a sudden, you might rim out versus a swish. So I think in a way that, who knows if that affected him, if he had known, regardless, I get the question. And how it affects the future of going to whether he's going to come back. Because I think sometimes folks are missing it where I feel like I haven't seen a lot on Twitter or anything like that where folks are talking about, it's water testing, but is he gone? We don't know. And so that's kind of the nature of the beast that happens with NIL, which really stinks. But totally. That's, when we talked about wanting things like the NCAA games back and players deserving to get paid, which, they do deserve some compensation, I believe. Pandora's box is open. We got to kind of figure out how to get the toothpaste, some of it back in the tube. But I think that's really the other part of that question is Tre Holloman truly testing the waters, or is he deuces goodbye, whatnot? Because if he knew about it way earlier before and they had him kiss a Spartan head, and that was a little bit of Tom Izzo giving a cheeky, deuces to him, right. Then he's gone. He's super gone.
Big time gone. Yeah.
And so who knows? And so long-winded question.
Who knows? Yeah, exactly. We
long-winded answer on my part, so I apologize. But
no, we might never know the answer. But yeah, like that's why it's just like a quick question. But like there are a lot of layers to what could be the answer, and I guess like what us fans are really searching for or whatever. Yeah. Like no ill will towards Trey. Like good luck at his next stop. It is what it is. The game is the game. Any cliche you want to throw out there, you got to take care of yourself first, which is of course something that we've tried to hammer home this week. 5-hour energy, it's going to come to my rescue this week. And that's right. Got a little golf outing on Saturday. And you know what? It gets a little sleepy out there, especially in the back nine. If you're not hitting the pars or the birdies or even the bogeys in some cases, like I might be, get over the hump with 5-hour energy, whether it's a golf course, whether it's yard work, whether it's just hanging out with the kids or staying up for the March tournament action right here. Because whether you are staying up late, they are going to get you over that hump, and it's convenient. Just throw a few in your golf bag or your yard work bag, your tool bag, or even your pocket, guys. It does not get any more convenient than with 5-hour energy. Whether I'm at a game or traveling, 5-hour energy is easy to grab and it keeps me feeling refreshed. So head over to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered straight to your door. Or, hey, if you're in a pinch, you need one right now, well, grab a 5-hour energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They are everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized with 5-hour energy. But, Maddie, do you have one question that's on your mind that you would just love an answer to, or do you just want me to keep on layering on gripes to end this beautiful week as we throttle ourselves into a weekend here? Because I've got another one here.
Mine's a question that
okay.
This would be one for I feel like it's almost more likely to show up on a DK basketball space, but I'm trying to be forward thinking.
Okay.
I think we're in a delicate spot as a fan base right now, just with the team, the beloved team being a little picked apart by the portal. I think if I wanted a question answered today, it would be what steps or what they look like, whose game looks like what by the end of the season, particularly Jeremy Fears and Cohen Carr. And if I knew what steps they take towards the end of the season or towards the end of the off season, I think it would get me a lot more excited about them staying. I'm not saying I'm not. It would just be more about what caliber of team we're going to see take the court without even knowing what happens with Trey, what happens with Jace, and what transfers come in or anything like that. And I think that's that would really give me a lot of security versus kind of how I'm feeling where, I'd say is that in the last, the dark times that it's been the last 3 or 4 years since Cassius was gone, we've had a few players that have come and gone through the program that didn't take steps in ways that we necessarily wanted to. I would say you could even cite some parts of Jaden Aiken's game did not improve from junior to senior year. And so and yet Cohen Carr made really big steps over this offseason. And you're wondering, can he do the same amount for different parts of his games, like a 3-pointer? And all of a sudden you are looking at a very, very complete player. Then the question with Jeremy, can Jeremy kind of get back on track from his injury that the announcers have said every game that he plays in? But
some more excitedly than others.
Some more excitedly, some really, really into it.
Was shot.
Shot.
Nice. Thanks, Gus. Jesus. Okay.
But the question is, if he gets back on track, it's kind of back at that being that point guard. Because if that's why Trey's leaving, is because MSU's staff has full faith in. So this kind of links with your question. Full faith in Jeremy taking that step and getting back to where he was and ahead of that pace. And, just by knowing what we've seen from Jeremy Fears, he's a dog. He is an intense guy on the court. So you'd think that he would probably really want to work hard. He almost was on the court after he got shot. If I remember, he was trying to get back in time, which is crazy in itself.
Right.
But I think they look at those two, and I'm curious to what they look like at the end of the end of the off season, because that would really calm a lot of nerves as we go into the lovely summer. And I got to just dial in on football recruiting is basically all I got as a non-baseball fan.
Let's talk about football right now, because I'm just gonna belt just one more gripe out there for this show. This is a few weeks old. Now, the reason it's a few weeks old and we're bringing it up right now is because basketball has captivated our attention in the last few weeks, but this is kind of like what you maybe have missed gripe as far as football goes. So I think we all know by now they have canceled the spring game, or the open spring practice, whatever you want to call it, the free event for fans. Obviously, look, we don't draw 70,000 to that thing, but it's a nice family-friendly free event for Spartan fans, people in the Lansing area alike. Okay, we talked about it on yesterday with Alan True. Doesn't really impact recruiting. If anything, it probably even helps recruiting that they get a more realistic look of what a normal practice is. That's the Spark Notes on that. But I'm talking from a fan perspective because it doesn't end there. Because in the last few weeks, they have also announced that they are raising the season ticket prices. Now, it isn't an astronomical amount, just $5 per game, but the seating licenses have gone up, some higher in sections more than others. And on top of all that, we're going to go back even a few more weeks. They've done all this while taking away a home game from the schedule here. A move that I have been very loud about in saying that that is the right move to do. I think having that last game at Ford Field is the correct move. However, I think this is true too. You're taking away a home game. You're taking away an event like this, and yet you're raising prices for season ticket holders. And don't tell me it's because revenue. Oh, we're, changing out the screens of the scoreboard and we're getting new lighting fixtures in the suites at Spartan Stadium. Like, who do you think you guys are? This isn't Georgia. This isn't Ohio State. This is a program that has been bullish for 3 years. Your fan base has been as apathetic as I can literally ever remember it in my 3 decades on this earth. And you thank them by canceling a free event, taking away a home game, and hiking up season tickets. When does it come back, and when do we start getting engagement back with this fan base and giving something that Spartan fans can actually be excited about while you look like a wilting flower in the world of college football? The reason I'm so fired up about it is not just everything I've named, but you also look at what else is going around with college football. Okay, canceled spring games are the norm now. But they've also had fan events. Let's go down the street to Michigan. They're having a ticketed signing with the Stars event. It's going to be an autograph thing for all the players, families to come get their gear signed. Oklahoma, Texas having Fan Fest. Nebraska having Fan Fest. Everyone's having something that at least gets energy and engagement with their fan bases. Michigan State, 404 error cannot be found. That'll be an extra $5 more to see a team that has been pretty miserable to watch the last 3 years. I'll stop rambling again. That's not a question, Maddie. But if you got a gripe that kind of aligns with anything I just said, go ahead and just take the wheel from here, because the gall to make it more expensive to watch a team that is not worth buying expensive tickets for.
I'm 100% with you. You are as valid as the day is long. That's what I needed to hear.
I wrote some, so a little behind the curtain Locked On audience is that I knew that there were gripes coming, but I did not know what they were. And I wrote down my own gripes, and they flow right into each other, because with the raising of prices, and I say this as a season ticket holder who lives out of state, which is just for you investment gurus out there, a terrible idea. I have lost a lot of money paying for seat back. I pay for seat backs that I don't sit in.
Out of state seat back holder.
Yeah, wow. So I am part of the problem, but I continue to enable my oppressors. That being said, the fact that it was raising, so the price is raised already, and I kind of didn't. I just numbly reacted to renewing tickets. That being said, I think MSU football, at least in the last 5-6 years, has always had an optics issue. I think that in our athletic department sometimes pretty big optics issues, and I think this is one of them. And I think the fact that you are hurting people in their wallets, but not delivering on some other end to justify the cost. This is the equivalent of a landlord just telling you that your rent's going up for no reason, not because of taxes or whatever or whatnot.
Yeah, renovations, sure.
But also at the same time, with football, we actually can see or hear about things like revenue sharing, Big Ten TV deals. All those things that we know that the university is getting a lot of money. We also know that tuition's rising all the time. We also know football makes a large portion of the university's money.
Yeah.
Yet we're also passing a cost onto a fan base that has been through a lot. Like you said, not Georgia. let's be real. We haven't been really winning a lot of games. And I will tell you is that there have been often times, and I say this again as an out-of-state season ticket holder, notable dummy, is that I reluctantly sell my tickets when the games don't seem good. And that includes on the other end, if we know we're going to beat Texas Prairie View, A&M Prairie View.
Prairie View that we took it to. That's right. Suck it, Panthers. That's right.
But you know, you also know it's like, well, I don't want to take my, go to or take my friends or my girlfriend to any of those games. It's like, that's not fun. And for me, it's a, I live in Chicago. It's a 5-hour drive, and it's like, that's not worth it. So, and then on the other hand, you have the stadium experience, which is prison-like in itself. I mentioned the word oppressive. It feels oppressive. And they hats off to them for setting up beers and getting beers available. They kind of botched it, but I've been working at it. I think
it's gotten better. It's gotten better.
Okay. But at the same time, we still look like we're tailgating in a parking lot. It looks like the hamster cage has better aesthetics on the outside than some of the parts of Spartan Stadium, and people pee in the hamster cage constantly. So it's one of those where it's sad to see, because again, it's an optics issue. You have your pricing go up, but you don't have anything you get out of it, because now they take away a game. Now you can go to Ford Field, but now I have pretty decent seats. And you know what I have to do now? If I want to go to the Ford Field game for a stadium I don't even buy seats for, I got to get new seats now. I don't even know.
And drive an extra hour and a half on your end.
You're going to have to drive. Well, I'll fly at that point. But,
balling. Let's go.
Yeah, right. Yeah, those Spirit flights are real balling. Anyway, and then, the other part being the spring game is, I'm not going to lie, the spring game doesn't move too much for me. I get more out of the practices and whatnot, but I do agree that there is something to be said about having a good fan event that allows people to interact with the new team, especially in the portal era, where you have new guys every friggin' day. And you're telling me that we have a program that's so big and some sleeping giant, yet we can't put together some type of marketing or event that will at least show that we are reaching out to fans and hearing and having some sort of self-awareness, like just for a little bit. Because all it's been is it's felt like more and more cuts at the expense of the MSU fan. We've had tailgates, the tailgate experience hurt more. There haven't been any changes to the stadium yet. If the prices are going to go up, you're only going to lose people. And that's just how it feels. And there was a survey that went out a year or two ago that was showing potential upgrades that they're going to make to the stadium, but we haven't heard any news about it. Yeah, so again, it comes down to if there are these things coming that the rise in season ticket seat licenses are going to include, then they need to be communicated. That's PR 101. You can't talk about rising unless tariffs are affecting our football team, but who knows?
Yeah, they could have got an early jump on that, I suppose. Yeah.
I never checked where those seat backs were manufactured.
The seat backs were manufactured in Madagascar, actually.
That's great. Yeah.
Well, I know. Of all places.
That's on me. So what can I do?
I know. Yeah, the screens were made in Taiwan. Look, we're all suffering, and maybe Alan Haller just saw the whole tariff thing before anyone else did, and that's when he said, "You know what? It's time to ratchet it up $5 per game here." Savvy. That's savvy.
So I'm fully on board with the Ford Field thing. I think that's a great idea. There's a ton of Detroit Spartans, and from everything I've heard, it's a riot, and the weather generally sucks. I mean, even when MSU was going to go to the college football playoff game, I did not attend, and I lived in the state at the time that happened, but it was too cold. So I get it. I think that at the end of the day, and we're kind of in this same zone with football, like we are temporarily, I think with basketball we're in it a lot more with football. I think winning will cure a lot of the gripes.
Certainly.
I think the football gripes
kind of the only renovation that I want to see is just a competent team that actually plays between those hashes. That's
if we renovated the O-line, then I'll be like, that's where. Because here's the thing: you could even say, "Hey, we raised season ticket prices because that went to NIL," and folks would go, "Okay,
fine.
That's the era we live in."
They
Not
just
like,
say it.
"Oh,
it might actually just go to something else, and we don't really know. And that abyss is really, I think, the unknown of that people get angry about. I think if you are upfront with folks, unless it's not a good reason, then I no wonder they're not trying to do it. So I get it. But
this was healthy.
What can you do? Yeah,
this was good. This was cathartic because look, we're no strangers to like pessimistic shows, of course. We don't, like to do it, but when it's appropriate, I think, we like to have our mood match the fan base's mood.
Sure.
And that means that it's been very positive the last month to 3 months here, all thanks to basketball. But yeah, this is a market correction of the mood here because, of course, I wanted to get in some football talk as the basketball season has ended. And I'm trying to think of, well, what did we miss? That's something that's been missed. And, as I just keep on seeing these other events around the country pop up to engage fan bases, and I'm sitting here and I do a show 5 days a week, and I'm seeing every single month how this fan base gets more apathetic month after month after month about the football team. Yeah, I start to wonder, what the hell are we doing here, and what is the plan, and are they really this blind to what is actually going on? But anyway, Matty, thanks a lot for joining the show, man. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Really excited for my favorite sports teams to have their season since I'm going in publicly so positive.
Yeah, no, this is great. This is healthy. We're all having a good time here. Well, guys, we'll be back. We do this Locked On Spartans 5 days a week. Until then, take care of yourselves. Have a great weekend. Let's mix in a water. Love you all, especially you, MattyMehhh. Go green.